Have you ever stared at English like it's a mountain too high to climb? You want to speak, but your mind goes blank. You open your mouth, but no words come out. I've been there. Most people give up before they even start. But here's the truth. You don't need to know everything to say something. And in this video, I will show you, step by step, how to go from silence to speaking. Backhand index pointing right. Have you ever felt stuck with 0 words? Comment yes if you've been there. Chapter 1. I couldn't even say hello. There was a time when I sat in a room full of people and said nothing. Not because I had no thoughts, not because I had no feelings, but because I had no English. I remember the feeling clearly. Someone would look at me, smile, maybe say hello, and my brain would freeze. My heart would beat fast, but no words came out of my mouth. It felt like there was a wall between me and the world. A wall made of fear, silence, and shame. I wanted to speak so badly. I would practice alone in my head. I knew what hello meant. I had heard it many times in movies and songs. But still, when the moment came, I stayed quiet. My lips didn't move. My voice disappeared. I would go home and feel angry at myself. Why didn't I say anything? Why am I like this? I thought maybe I was just not smart enough. Maybe English was only for other people. People who were more confident. People who were born in better countries. People who had better schools. I felt too late, too old, too far behind. But what I didn't know was that I was not alone. Millions of people feel this way, not just about English, but about starting anything new. We wait for the perfect day, the perfect words, the perfect moment. But the perfect moment never comes. I was waiting to feel ready. But the truth is, you don't feel ready before you start. You feel ready after you begin, even if you begin with one word. And for me, that one word was hello. I remember the exact day I finally said it. I had been practicing for weeks. Just one word. Hello. I said it to myself in the mirror. I whispered it while walking. I even wrote it in my diary. Over and over again. Hello. I tried saying it with a smile. With confidence. With my hand raised. I made it a game. I turned it into a part of my daily life. I didn't care how small it was, because I knew it was my first brick in the house I was going to build. Then one day, in a store, the man at the counter looked up and said, "Hi." I felt that old panic rise in me. My brain said, "Run." But something inside me, something new, pushed me forward. I smiled. I opened my mouth. And I said it. Hello. That was it. One word. One tiny word. But for me, it felt like I had climbed a mountain. My heart was racing. My face was red. But I had done it. I had crossed the line from silence to speech. That small hello became the seed of everything I have now. All my sentences. All my stories. All my confidence. They began from that one brave moment. That's why this chapter matters. Not because it's long, not because it's filled with grammar or big vocabulary, but because it shows you the truth. Your journey starts the moment you say your first word out loud. Maybe today you can't say a sentence. That's okay. Say a word. Just one. Say hello to your mirror. Say hello to your notebook. Say hello to your future. That word will become your tool. That word will unlock the next, and the next, and one day, you'll look back and say, I remember when I couldn't say anything. Now I'm speaking. The fear of saying nothing is bigger than the fear of saying something wrong. I wish someone had told me that. I wasted so much time being afraid. But once I spoke, I became stronger. Not perfect, not fluent, just stronger. And that's how fluency is built. Not with pressure, not with shame, but with small steps that feel like victories. If you're watching this right now and thinking, that's me, I also can't speak, then listen closely. You are not broken. You are just beginning. Don't let your silence define your story. Let your first word be your freedom. And remember, the first word doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. Chapter 2. My first 10 words. That changed everything. In the beginning, English felt like an ocean. Endless. Deep. Cold. I didn't know where to start. I saw people speaking fast, using words I didn't understand. And my mind would scream, "You will never be like them." I thought I had to learn 1,000 words to speak. Or 2,000. Or maybe more. But I was wrong. I didn't need 1,000. I only needed 10. Yes, just 10 words to unlock everything. And these 10 words became the bridge from silence to speech. They were small, simple, but powerful. And they became my voice. I chose these words not from a textbook, not from an exam list. I chose them from my real life. I asked myself, what do I want to say every day? I looked around my room, my kitchen, my thoughts, and my feelings. And the answers were already there. I wanted to talk about what I do, what I want, where I go, how I feel, what I like, what I need. So I wrote down 10 words. I want, go, eat, this, like, not, you here now. That's it. These were my first friends in English. 10 little keys to open a big world. At first, I didn't believe in them. I thought, is this enough? But the more I used them, the more I realized they were magic. With just these 10 words, I could say so many things. I want this. I like you. I go now. I eat here. I do not want this. You are not here now. My sentences were not perfect, but they were alive. They were mine. And I started to feel something I never felt before. Possibility. These 10 words gave me power. They gave me confidence. They gave me a way to speak when I had nothing. The beauty of these words was not just in their meaning, but in their emotion. When I said, I want this, I felt alive. When I said, I like you, I felt connection. When I said, not now, I felt control. These were not empty grammar exercises. These were real expressions of my thoughts, my heart, my life. I was no longer just a learner. I was becoming a speaker. And all because I chose a few words and made them my own. I remember one night, sitting in bed with my notebook. I had written those 10 words at the top of the page. And for 20 minutes, I just played with them. I made sentence after sentence. Some were silly. Some were serious. But all were real. I felt like a child discovering language for the first time. And that's what made it special. There was no pressure. No exam. No fear. Just play. Just practice. Just progress. That night, I didn't feel like a failure anymore. I felt like a beginner, and that was enough. The secret no one tells you is this. You don't need a dictionary to start speaking English. You need emotion. You need purpose. You need a few simple words that feel useful to you. And then, you need to say them. Write them. Use them again and again until they are no longer strangers in your mouth. Until they become part of your breath. Your story. Your identity. That's how fluency begins. Not with memorizing, but with living. Some people laughed when I told them I was learning English with 10 words. They said it was too slow, too simple, too small. But they didn't understand. I wasn't just learning words. I was building a foundation. I was building trust, not in the language, but in myself. And once you trust yourself, you speak more. And when you speak more, you grow faster. I was planting seeds, and every word I used was water. Soon, my sentences began to bloom. If you're watching this video right now and you're thinking, I only know a few words, I want to say this to you. That's beautiful. That's more than enough to begin. Don't wait for more vocabulary. Don't wait for perfect grammar. Don't wait until you feel smart enough. Pick 10 words that matter to you. Words from your life. Words you feel. And then, speak them. Use them. Love them. These are your building blocks. These are your tools. These are your treasures. Because from those 10 words, your English life will begin. And one day, you'll look back and smile, just like I did. You'll say, I started with almost nothing, and that changed everything. Chapter 3. One word, many sentences. After I learned my first 10 words, something beautiful happened. I stopped looking at English as a giant puzzle. I stopped trying to collect more and more words like shiny objects. Instead, I asked myself a new question. What can I do with the words I already have? That question changed everything. Because the truth is, you don't need 100 new words. You need to use one word in 100 different ways. That's how real English grows. That's how fluency starts. One word, many sentences. I remember the first word I experimented with, go. It's simple. Everyone knows it. But I had never really played with it before. I just thought of it as one word. One meaning. But when I sat down with it, just me, my notebook, and my voice, I began to explore. I go. You go. I go home. I go now. Can I go? I don't want to go. Let's go together. Suddenly, I was not just learning English. I was using it. I was speaking it. I was building something strong from something small. That day, I discovered a powerful secret. Depth is more important than width. Many people try to learn more words, faster, bigger, longer. But what if you just took one small word and truly lived with it? Used it in real situations? Felt it, wrote it, spoke it, loved it? That's when English becomes real. That's when words become your own. I didn't need to memorize the dictionary. I just needed to make friends with one word at a time. And the more I played with each word, the more confident I became. I did the same with the word like. I had heard it in so many songs and movies. But now I made it mine. I like apples. I like you. I like this song. Do you like this? I don't like coffee. I used it with my feelings, my food, my friends. It helped me describe my world, and that made me feel like English belonged to me. I didn't just know the word. I owned it. I started talking to myself using just one word over and over again. And every time, it sounded more natural, more powerful, more true. The real magic was not in learning new vocabulary. The real magic was in creating sentences from what I already knew. With just a few words, I could express my mood, my desires, my thoughts. That's when I realized something important. English is not about knowing everything. It's about being able to say something. Anything. Even if it's small. Even if it's not perfect. If you can say, I go now, you're not just a learner. You're a speaker. And that small sentence has power. Because it came from you. I started to make a habit. Every morning, I picked one word. Just one. And I spent 5 minutes making different sentences with it. I didn't care if they were short or simple. I just wanted to feel the word move inside me. I wanted it to become part of my voice. I did it with words like eat, want, see, come, live. I even used objects around me. This is a pen. This pen is blue. I like this pen. I write with this pen. That pen became my partner in practice. And slowly, English stopped feeling like a subject. It became my tool. You see, when you can use one word in many ways, you're not just practicing, you're becoming fluent. Fluency is not speaking fast or using big words. Fluency is being able to express yourself with what you already have. It's like cooking. You don't need 100 ingredients to make a good meal. Sometimes, you just need one, used with love and creativity. That's how I treated my English. Like a small kitchen full of flavor. One simple word, many beautiful dishes. And something else happened. As I used these small words again and again in different sentences, they stopped being scary. They became automatic. They became part of my thinking. I started to think in English, not big thoughts, but small, clear thoughts. I go now. This is good. I don't want this. That's how fluency grows. Not with pressure, but with practice. Not with perfection, but with play. You don't need to wait for more vocabulary. You already have enough to begin your English life. So today, I want you to pick one word. Just one. Say it. Write it. Use it in 10 sentences. Then say those sentences out loud. Even whisper them if you're shy. Feel how that one word becomes your friend. Don't rush. Don't judge. Just feel. This is how we go from knowing words to using them. This is how we build fluent sentences from the small seeds we already carry. Because the power to speak doesn't come from how much you know. It comes from what you do with what you already have. Chapter 4. Sentences before grammar. When I first started learning English, I was told that grammar was everything. That I had to learn the rules before I could speak. That I had to understand tenses, conditionals, subjects, and objects before I opened my mouth. So I sat with grammar books. I underlined verbs. I circled nouns. I memorized charts. But still, I couldn't speak. I couldn't build one simple sentence. All that grammar made my mind heavy, not free. I was drowning in rules, but starving for real words. I didn't feel like a speaker. I felt like a student trapped in silence. Then one day, something changed. I watched a child speak English. A little girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old. She made mistakes. Her grammar was all over the place. But she spoke. She laughed. She asked questions. She made sentences with her feelings, not with rules. And people understood her. She wasn't perfect, but she was powerful. That day, I understood something that no book had taught me. We don't speak because we know grammar. We speak because we want to connect. So I made a decision. I stopped chasing perfection. I stopped waiting to feel ready. And I started using sentences, simple ones, every single day. Even if the grammar wasn't perfect. Even if the tenses were mixed. Even if the structure was wrong. I said what I wanted to say. I want eat. I go now. This not good. Were they correct? Maybe not. But they were real. And they were mine. And when I said them, something amazing happened. I was finally speaking. You see, grammar is important, but not first. You don't teach a baby to walk by showing them a book about bones and muscles. You let them fall. You let them move. You let them try. Language is the same. First, you speak. Then, you fix. Not the other way around. I learned more about grammar from using sentences than from studying rules. Because real grammar lives in your mouth, not in your mind. It grows from use, not from memory. And here's another truth. Native speakers make grammar mistakes too. They say things wrong. They forget words. They change structure mid-sentence. But no one stops them. Because communication is more powerful than perfection. Don't let grammar become your prison. Let it become your guide. Later, not now. In the beginning, Your job is to build sentences that express something simple and true. I want this. I go work. I like you. Start there. Feel the joy of saying what you think. The grammar will follow your voice. I remember the first time I spoke to someone in English, without thinking about grammar. I just spoke from emotion. I said, I go home now, I'm very tired. It was not correct, but the person smiled. They understood me. They replied. And in that moment, I felt free. I felt like I had finally entered the world of English speakers. Not because I had perfect grammar, but because I had the courage to speak from the heart. That's a feeling grammar books can't give you. Over time, something beautiful happened. The more I used simple sentences, the more I started to hear the patterns. I noticed, oh, it's I am tired, not I very tired. I corrected myself naturally, not from fear, but from experience. Grammar became like music, something I could feel, not just study. And I loved it more because I had earned it through practice, through living the language, not memorizing it. So if you are watching this right now and you're stuck with grammar, I want to tell you, take a deep breath. Let go of the pressure. Start with your voice, not your rules. Speak a sentence that feels true, even if it's broken, especially if it's broken. Because broken sentences build bridges. They carry your meaning across. They carry your courage. And that's what English is all about. Your grammar will grow, naturally, as your confidence grows. Just like a child learns to run after walking. You'll start to feel the rhythm. The right words will come. But don't wait for that moment. Begin now. With your sentences. With your voice. With your life. Because fluency is not the result of perfect grammar. It's the result of brave sentences, spoken with love. Chapter 5. My mirror talk changed my life. There was a time when I had no one to speak English with. No teacher. No partner. No classroom. Just me and my quiet room. I used to feel stuck. I wanted to speak, but there was no one listening. No one to correct me. No one to help me. And for a while, I believed I couldn't practice speaking alone. But then, something very simple and very strange changed everything for me. One day, I stood in front of the mirror and said, hello. That was the beginning of my most powerful practice ever. Mirror talk. At first, it felt silly. I stood there, looking at my reflection, speaking in broken English. I go now. I am tired. This is my room. But as I continued, something magical began to happen. The person in the mirror wasn't just me anymore. It was a partner, a listener, a friend. I was no longer afraid of being wrong, because no one was judging me. I was free to speak, to repeat, to try again. I was able to see my face, my mouth, my emotions. And slowly, I became more than a learner. I became a speaker. Every morning, I would wake up, wash my face, and stand in front of that mirror. I didn't have a script. I didn't have a lesson plan. I just spoke what I felt. Good morning. I am happy today. I don't want to go outside. I talked about the day, my dreams, my worries. And the more I spoke, the more real it felt. My voice became stronger. My sentences became longer. My mind stopped translating and started thinking in English. The mirror didn't correct my grammar, but it gave me something more powerful, confidence. You see, the mirror doesn't laugh at you. The mirror doesn't interrupt you. The mirror doesn't care if your English is broken. It listens with full attention. It reflects not only your face, but your effort, your growth, your courage. That's why mirror talk worked so well for me. It turned my lonely practice into a daily habit. It gave me time with myself. It made English part of my morning. Not something I had to do, but something I chose to do. And I remember one day, I stood there and said, "You are learning. You are getting better. You are not afraid anymore." I looked into my own eyes and smiled. That day, I wasn't just practicing English. I was believing in myself. That's what mirror talk does. It doesn't just train your tongue. It trains your heart. It makes you feel seen. And when you feel seen, your voice becomes stronger. Sometimes I would laugh at myself. Sometimes I would say something completely wrong. But instead of feeling bad, I felt brave. I would say, "That's okay. Try again." And I did. Again and again. And every day, my sentences became smoother. My confidence grew. I no longer waited for a teacher. I became my own teacher. My mirror became my daily classroom. And it was always open, always patient, always free. If you are watching this right now and thinking, "But I live alone," or "I have no one to practice English with," then I want to tell you, you are not stuck. You are not alone. You have a mirror, and that mirror is your new friend. Go stand in front of it. Right now. Don't wait. Look into your eyes. Take a breath. And say one simple sentence. "I can speak English." Say it again. Louder. Stronger. With feeling. Let the words fill the room. Let them touch your heart. Because when you speak to your mirror, you speak to your future self. The one who will one day speak to the world. And that future self will look back and say, "It all started here, in front of the mirror, with one small sentence. Spoken alone, but full of power." So don't be afraid. Speak to your reflection. Make eye contact. Use your hands. Feel your emotions. Smile at your progress. Laugh at your mistakes. This is your stage. This is your practice. This is your secret power. Because fluency doesn't begin with someone else's voice. It begins with your own. Chapter 6. Describe your day in simple English. There was a time when I thought English only lived inside books. That it was something far from my real life. Something used in classrooms, in exams, in formal places. I believed I needed to learn phrases like "on the other hand," or "moreover," to be considered good at English. But the truth is, most of my life was not about essays or test questions. It was about waking up, brushing my teeth, making tea, walking outside, feeling tired, feeling happy. And one day I realized, if I could describe my real day, I could speak real English. So I started small. Very small. One morning, I opened my eyes and whispered, "I am awake." That was it. Just 3 words. But those 3 words connected me to my day, to my English, to my practice. As I sat up, I said, "I get up now." When I went to the bathroom, I said, "I brush my teeth." While making tea, I said, "I boil water." I make tea. I drink slowly. These were not beautiful sentences, but they were real. They were my life in English. And for the first time, I saw English not as a subject, but as a tool. It felt like magic. Every action had a sentence. Every moment was a chance to speak. I didn't need a book. I didn't need a teacher. I just needed my day, my simple, ordinary, beautiful day. And suddenly, everything became a classroom. The kitchen was a place to say, "I open the fridge. I take an egg. I cook the egg." The bedroom was a place to say, "I fold my blanket. I make the bed." Even the street was a teacher. I walk fast. I see cars. I hear birds. I didn't go to school that day, but I learned more than ever before. This practice changed everything for me. I began to think in English, not just study it. My thoughts were no longer trapped in translation. I wasn't trying to find big words. I was using the words I already knew to describe what I was doing. And that made me feel fluent, even with just a few words. I didn't need to impress anyone. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to speak about the life I was already living. I made this practice part of my routine. Every day, I would take 5 minutes in the morning to describe what I was doing out loud. And then again in the evening, I would speak about my day in past tense. I woke up. I drank tea. I worked. I felt tired. These sentences were not long, but they helped me understand grammar, vocabulary, and most of all, how to connect English to my real emotions. Because when I said, I am tired, I was really tired. It was true, and that truth gave the sentence life. I also wrote some of these moments in a small notebook, just a few lines each day. I called it my day book. One page at a time, I built a habit, a lifestyle, a feeling that English was not something I was chasing. It was something I was already living, and that made me feel strong. I didn't feel behind anymore. I felt present. Sometimes I would speak to myself in the mirror using these daily sentences. Sometimes I would speak while cooking or walking. People might have thought I was strange, but I didn't care. I was building my English muscle. I was training my voice. And I was becoming more fluent, not by studying hard, but by living simply. So if you're watching this video and thinking, I don't know what to say in English, I have a message for you. Look around you. Your life is full of English. Every object, every action, every moment. It's all waiting to be turned into a sentence. You don't need to talk about politics or philosophy. You can just say, I eat rice. I wash my hands. I sit on the sofa. And that is enough. The power of describing your day is that it teaches you the most useful words, the words you will actually use. And the more you use them, the more confident you become. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need long vocabulary lists. You just need a voice that says, this is what I am doing. This is what I feel. And that voice will grow stronger, sentence by sentence. Because fluency doesn't come from special topics. It comes from the way you live and the words you use to describe it. Chapter 7. I repeated one sentence 100 times. There was a moment in my English journey when I felt completely stuck. I had learned some words. I had made a few simple sentences. I had even started thinking in English during my daily life. But still, something was missing. My sentences were slow. My voice was soft. I always had to think too much before speaking. And deep inside, I was scared. Scared that I was just pretending to learn English, but not truly becoming fluent. Then, one day, I discovered something so simple, so boring, yet so powerful. I repeated one sentence 100 times. Yes, just one sentence. Not a list of 100 vocabulary words. Not 20 grammar rules. One sentence. One real, simple sentence that I wanted to make mine. The sentence was, I can speak English. That's it. And I didn't just say it in my head. I said it out loud. Again and again. In the mirror. On my walk. While washing dishes. While waiting for food. I said it with a smile. I said it with feeling. I said it like a whisper. I said it like a shout. And after 100 times, something inside me changed. At first, it felt strange. Robotic. Repetitive. But after the first 20 times, my mouth started moving faster. After 30, I didn't need to think. After 50, the sentence felt natural. After 70, I started believing it. And by the 100th time, it didn't feel like just a sentence. It felt like a truth. It felt like a promise. It felt like a part of who I was. That's the magic of repetition. It doesn't just teach your tongue. It reprograms your mind. It changes what you believe is possible. This method became my favorite practice. Every week, I picked a new sentence. Something that matched my goal, my feeling, my daily life. I am learning fast. English is part of my day. I make progress every time I speak. I would say these sentences over and over, while walking to work, cleaning my room, looking at the sky. And I noticed something amazing. My fluency didn't just grow, it flowed. Words came easier. My confidence grew. And English became a habit, not a hard task. You see, we often underestimate the power of saying something many times. We think it's childish or boring. But think about how children learn to speak. They repeat the same words again and again, not for school, but because they want to use them. They say mama 100 times. More. No, mine. Repetition is not just practice. It's a declaration, a way of telling your brain, this is important. Remember this. Make it part of me. So I made repetition my daily medicine. On the days I felt tired, I picked one sentence and whispered it 50 times. On the days I felt strong, I said it with joy 100 times. I didn't always have time for long lessons, but I always had time for one sentence. And because I said it with my mouth, it became easier to say to others. That's how fluency grows, not with difficulty, but with consistency. And repeating one sentence is one of the most consistent habits you can build. And let me tell you, some of those sentences healed me. When I was feeling low, I said, I am enough. When I was afraid, I said, mistakes help me grow. When I was tired of being behind, I said, every word I speak is progress. These were not just grammar exercises. These were affirmations, real sentences with real emotion. And because I spoke them out loud, I began to live them. And when you live your language, you never forget it. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like your mouth is slow, your voice is small, your confidence is missing, I invite you to try this. Choose one simple English sentence and say it 100 times. Not just fast, not just to finish, but with meaning, with heart, with repetition that feels like a rhythm. You don't need a classroom. You don't need a partner. You only need your voice and a sentence that matters to you. Because every sentence you repeat becomes smoother, stronger, more alive. And that's how you become fluent, not with many words, but with the power of one sentence, spoken with love. Chapter 8. Listening was my secret superpower. There was a time when I thought speaking was the only way to improve my English. I focused so much on talking that I ignored everything else. I believed that if I wasn't speaking, I wasn't growing. But after weeks of trying to talk and feeling stuck, I felt tired, frustrated, and defeated. I didn't know what was wrong. My voice felt blocked. My thoughts were too slow. I couldn't build sentences the way I wanted. I felt like a child who wanted to run but kept falling. And then, by accident, I discovered the superpower I never knew I had: listening. It started on a rainy day. I was too tired to practice speaking. I didn't want to read or write. So I simply put on my headphones and played a slow English story. I closed my eyes. I didn't take notes. I didn't stop the audio. I just listened. At first, I didn't understand every word. But something about the voice, the emotion, the rhythm, it calmed me. It pulled me in. I listened for 10 minutes. Then 20. Then 30. And when it ended, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: peace. I wasn't studying. I was feeling the language. That night, I repeated the same story before sleep. Again the next morning. Again during my walk. I didn't try to understand every word. I didn't pause to translate. I let the sentences flow through me like music. And something began to change. My ears got stronger. My mind stopped translating. My brain started to recognize sounds, patterns, emotion. And one day, I said a sentence out loud, and I realized I had copied the voice I had been listening to. Without even trying, I had absorbed it like water into a sponge. That's when I understood. Listening is not passive. It's powerful. It teaches you without pressure. When you listen with your heart, with emotion, with rhythm, with patience, your brain does its secret work. It starts learning sentence structure, pronunciation, tone, grammar, all without a single grammar book. And best of all, it helps your speaking. Because before you can say a sentence, you have to hear it. Before you speak with confidence, you have to feel how it sounds. I started making listening a part of my daily life. Not once a week, not once a month, but every single day. I listen while cooking. I listen while cleaning. I listened before sleep. But I didn't just listen to anything. I chose slow, clear, emotional English. Stories, conversations, videos made for learners like me. I avoided fast news reports and heavy lectures. I wanted English that felt close to me. That made me feel something. Because when you feel the words, you remember them. They become part of your heart. And the best part? I didn't need to be active all the time. I could lie down, close my eyes, and still be learning. Even when I was tired, I could listen. Even when I was sad, I could listen. And sometimes, I would hear a phrase and say, "Yes, that's exactly how I feel." I started repeating those phrases out loud, copying them, shadowing the speaker's voice. Not perfectly, but with passion. And soon, those words became mine. People often ask, how can I speak better English? And I tell them the truth. Speak less. Listen more. Because listening is how you build your foundation. Listening is how you learn what sounds right, what feels right. It's how you start to think in English. And when you think in English, your speaking becomes smoother, easier, more natural. You don't have to memorize everything. You absorb it. Just like a baby listens to their parents before they ever speak, we too must listen with the ears of a child and the heart of a learner. One of my favorite exercises was choosing one story and listening to it for 7 days. Every day, the same story. Not because I didn't have other options, but because repetition built deep memory. On the first day, I understood 50%. On the second day, 70%. By the 7th day, I could say parts of the story before the speaker did. That's when I knew it was working, that I was growing. Not with pressure, but with peace. If you are feeling lost right now, if you can't speak fast or build long sentences, if you don't know what to say, start listening. Let your ears become your teacher. Choose voices that feel friendly. Sentences that feel close to your life. Don't worry about understanding everything. Just stay close to the language. Let it live in your environment, in your room, in your headphones, in your sleep. Because the more you listen, the more your English will speak inside you. Listening is not silence. Listening is learning. And sometimes, the quietest practice becomes your loudest strength. Chapter 9. My English Journal. I wrote before I spoke. There was a time in my learning journey when I was scared to speak, even to myself. The words were in my mind, but my voice didn't trust them. I felt nervous every time I opened my mouth. I was afraid I would forget. Afraid I would say something wrong. Afraid I would sound foolish. So instead of speaking out loud, I began to write. Not because someone told me to. Not for school. Not for a grade. I did it because I needed a place where I could be free. And that place became my English journal. It started with just a few words. I didn't know how to write full sentences. I didn't know the rules. I didn't care. I just opened a notebook and wrote, "Today happy." That was it. 2 words. But those 2 words came from my heart. They were real. And for the first time, I felt a strange connection between what I felt and the English I used to express it. I wrote those words, looked at them, and whispered them softly. "Today happy." And that whisper was the beginning of my voice. The next day, I wrote a little more. I eat rice. I go shop. I tired. No commas. No grammar. Just honesty. Simple. Raw. True. I was not trying to impress anyone. I was just recording my life. And that made all the difference. I didn't need a topic. I didn't need a prompt. I just needed to tell the page what happened in my day. And with every word I wrote, I felt like I was building something. A bridge between my world and my English. After a few days, I began to notice something. Writing helped me think more clearly. It gave me time to slow down. It gave my brain space to find the right words. And when I looked back at what I had written, I began to see patterns. I saw the words I repeated often. I noticed where I made the same small mistakes. And I learned, not from a book, but from my own thoughts. My journal became my teacher, my mirror, my friend. There were days I didn't want to write. Days I felt lazy. Days I felt too busy. But I told myself, just one sentence. And most of the time, that one sentence turned into 3, then 5, then a whole page. Sometimes I wrote in the morning with my tea. Sometimes at night before sleep. It didn't matter when. What mattered was that I showed up. I opened the page. I told my truth. And in return, English opened up to me. One day, something amazing happened. I was writing a sentence in my journal. "Today I go." And suddenly, I said it out loud. Without fear. Without thinking. The sentence came naturally. My voice followed my pen. That's when I realized, writing is not separate from speaking. It prepares your voice before it's ready. It gives your words time to grow, quietly, in safety, until they are strong enough to come out. I began to write things I wanted to say to others. Small messages, opinions, even dreams. I want to travel. I like when people smile. I feel shy, but I try. I didn't care about mistakes. I cared about meaning. And the more I connected my thoughts to the page, the more I felt in control of my language. Writing gave me power because it gave me proof. Proof that I had thoughts, that I could build something, that my English was not empty, it was real. Eventually, my journal became a record of my growth. I could flip back and see where I started. I could laugh at how simple my first entries were. And I could smile at how far I had come. It was not perfect English, but it was perfectly mine. And that feeling, that pride, pushed me to speak more. To take the sentences from my notebook and use them in real life. To test them, to shape them, to live them. If you're watching this right now and you feel too nervous to speak, start writing. Don't wait until you know everything. Don't worry about being correct. Just open a notebook and write what you feel, what you see, what you do. No one is watching. No one is judging. It's just you and the page. And that page is your beginning, your practice ground, your quiet microphone. Because fluency doesn't always begin with sound. Sometimes it begins with ink on paper and a heart that refuses to be silent. Chapter 10. I made mistakes and still spoke more. For a long time, I believed that mistakes were bad, that they were proof I wasn't good enough. Every time I said something wrong in English, I would feel small, embarrassed, ashamed. I would repeat the mistake in my head all day. Why did I say that? Why didn't I use the right word? I'm never going to speak again. I was trying so hard to be perfect that I forgot what I truly needed to be: brave. Then something happened. I was in a small shop, trying to ask for bread. I looked at the man behind the counter and said, "I need some breadses." He blinked, confused. "Breads?" I said again. He smiled gently and replied, "You mean bread?" I nodded quickly and walked out, face burning. I felt like a failure. I wanted to cry. But later that night, I told my mirror the same sentence: "I need some bread." This time, it was correct. And I realized something powerful I had learned. Not from a grammar book, not from a lesson, but from a real mistake. From that moment on, I stopped being afraid of mistakes. I began to understand that mistakes were not enemies. They were teachers. Every time I used the wrong word, I learned the right one. Every time I forgot a sentence, I remembered it better the next time. The more mistakes I made, the more progress I saw. My fear became smaller. My sentences became braver. And most importantly, I started speaking more, not less. You see, the biggest mistake is not speaking badly. The biggest mistake is not speaking at all. Because silence doesn't teach you. Perfection doesn't teach you. But real attempts, even messy ones, they do. That's why children learn faster than adults. They don't stop to check their grammar. They just speak. They say strange things. They invent words. But they speak. And because they speak, they grow. I began to create a new rule for myself. Make at least one mistake every day. Not to fail, but to learn. If I made 0 mistakes, it meant I hadn't pushed myself. I hadn't tried something new. I hadn't spoken enough. So I started talking more. To myself, to strangers, to friends who didn't judge. And yes, I made mistakes. Many. But my fluency also started to grow like a tree finally getting sunshine. And do you know what I noticed? Most people didn't even care. When I said something wrong, they didn't laugh. They didn't correct me harshly. They understood what I meant. They smiled. They listened. And sometimes, they gently helped me. That's when I realized the truth. People don't want your perfect English. They want your honest effort, your real voice. And when you speak with heart, they hear you, even if your words are broken. Mistakes also taught me which words mattered most to me. I paid more attention to the words I kept getting wrong. I looked them up. I repeated them. I practiced them in my journal, in my mirror, in my daily sentences. And slowly, those same mistakes became my strongest skills. The sentences I once feared became the sentences I loved to say. There were also emotional mistakes, moments I felt stupid, moments I froze, moments I gave up. But even those taught me how to be kind to myself, to laugh at my errors, to celebrate my effort, to say, yes, I made a mistake, and that means I'm learning. If you're watching this right now and feeling afraid, afraid to speak, afraid to be wrong, I want to tell you something I wish someone told me earlier. Mistakes are not your enemy. They are your path. They are not the problem. They are the process. Every mistake you make is proof that you're alive inside the language. That you're not just watching. You're participating. And that takes courage. So today, speak without fear. Say the wrong word. Use the wrong tense. Mix up your structure. It's okay. It's more than okay. It's necessary. Because each time you fall, you rise higher. Each time you fail, you build fluency. Not the kind that lives in books, but the kind that lives in your body, your voice, your experience. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes. It's the courage to keep speaking in the middle of them. Chapter 11. One conversation that changed my English. There are many small steps in the journey of learning English. But sometimes, one single moment can open a new door. One conversation can make all the difference. For me, that moment didn't happen in a classroom. It didn't come from a book or a video. It came from a real person, in a real place, on a day I will never forget. I was nervous. I was unsure. I wanted to run away. But I didn't. I stayed. I spoke. And that conversation changed my English forever. It was a warm afternoon, and I was sitting alone in a small park. I had my English journal in my lap, and I was quietly reading one of the entries I had written the night before. Today I walk to market. I buy banana. I feel tired. Simple words. Broken grammar. But they were mine. I was practicing in silence, as usual. Then, suddenly, a voice beside me said, "Are you learning English?" I looked up. A stranger was smiling at me. My heart began to race. My hands got cold. I wanted to hide the notebook. I hesitated. My first thought was, don't speak. You'll make mistakes. But then I remembered all my mirror talks, all my repeated sentences, all the words I had written and whispered and practiced. So I took a breath, and I said, yes, I try to learn. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The stranger smiled even more and said, that's great. English is a beautiful language. Then he asked, where are you from? And just like that, we began to talk. It was not a long conversation, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10. But in that short time, I did something I had never done before. I had a real conversation in English. Not in my head, not in my notebook, not with my mirror, with a human being. I made mistakes. I forgot words. I laughed nervously. But I didn't stop. And what surprised me most, he understood me. He listened patiently. He didn't correct me harshly. He encouraged me. And that gave me something that no textbook ever could: belief. After that day, I walked home feeling like a different person. The words I had said were still echoing in my mind. I try to learn. I like English. I write journal every day. They were not perfect sentences, but they were my sentences, spoken with courage. And that made them powerful. That day taught me something I will never forget. You don't become fluent by speaking perfectly. You become fluent by daring to speak, even when you're not ready. From that day on, I began to look for more conversations. Not long ones, not deep ones, just small moments where I could use my voice. At a shop, at a bus stop, in a park. And the more I spoke, the more natural it became. I no longer waited to feel ready. I just showed up with the English I had. And the more I used it, the more it grew. Not just in words, but in feeling, in flow, in fluency. That first conversation also taught me another lesson. People are kinder than you think. I used to believe everyone would judge me if I spoke badly. But most people are not waiting to laugh at your mistakes. They are waiting to understand your heart. And when they see your effort, they often respond with kindness. I've had many small conversations since then, and each one became another step forward, another reminder that I was no longer silent. If you've never spoken English with someone before, if all your practice has been in your head or alone, I want to tell you this. You are closer than you think. Your words are ready. Your sentences are waiting. You don't need to be perfect. You just need one moment of bravery. And that one moment can open your voice like never before. It might be short, it might be awkward, but it will be real. And that makes it unforgettable. Don't wait for the perfect conversation. Look for the small one, the simple one. Ask someone, "How are you?" Order food in English. Say thank you. Say hello. One day, you will look back, just like I did, and say, that was the conversation that changed everything. Because fluency doesn't arrive with a certificate. It begins with a voice that dares to be heard, even when it's still learning. Chapter 12. From Zero Words to Fluent Sentences, My Real Victory. There was a time when I couldn't say a single word in English. Not even hello. Not even thank you. I would open my mouth, and nothing came out. I remember that silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was painful. It made me feel small, invisible, like my voice didn't belong in the world of English. Every sentence felt too big. Every rule felt too hard. I was afraid, not just of the language, but of being seen trying and failing. I truly believed I would never speak. I believed English belonged to others, not to me. But today, as I sit here and speak these words to you, I smile. Not because I am perfect, not because I know every rule, but because I am speaking, because my words are coming out, not frozen, not forced, but free. I have gone from silence to sentences, from confusion to communication, from zero words to real fluency. And that, to me, is the biggest victory of my life. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't one magic method. It was many small, patient, emotional steps. I chose 10 simple words and made them mine. I practiced one word in many sentences. I built confidence before grammar. I talked to my mirror when no one else listened. I described my daily life, even the boring parts, in English. I repeated one sentence 100 times until it felt like breathing. I listened with my heart, not just my ears. I wrote my thoughts in a journal when my voice was still hiding. I made mistakes, so many mistakes, and still, I kept going. And then one day, I had my first real conversation. Not a test, not a performance, just a real human moment. And from there, I never looked back. This victory is not about being fluent like a native speaker. It's about being fluent like me. Speaking English with my heart, my story, my rhythm. It's about expressing who I am in this new language. About feeling strong even when my words are simple. About being brave enough to be myself in English. I used to look at others and say, they speak so well. I will never be like them. But I learned something powerful. Comparison is the enemy of growth. My journey is mine. My speed is mine. My voice is mine. And when I stopped trying to sound like someone else, I finally heard myself. And that voice, that honest, imperfect, beautiful voice, became my guide. Fluency is not just about speaking fast. It's about speaking freely, without fear, without shame, without waiting for permission. It's about waking up and saying, I can talk about my day. I can ask for help. I can tell someone how I feel. And that kind of fluency comes not from studying harder, but from showing up every day with courage. I know many people still feel like I once did, stuck at zero, afraid to begin. Maybe you are watching this and thinking, I'm too late. I'm too old. I've tried before and failed. I understand you. I was you. But I promise you this. You are not broken. You are just beginning. And the beginning is always the hardest part. But it's also the most beautiful. Because when you start from zero, every word is a celebration. Every sentence is a victory. Every moment you speak, you win. You grow. You build. You shine. You don't need 1,000 words to be proud. You just need one sentence. One sentence that came from your heart. That is fluency. That is power. And now, here I am, not perfect, but present, speaking to you, telling my story, and maybe, just maybe, giving you the courage to begin yours. If I can go from 0 words to fluent sentences, so can you. You don't need to be ready. You just need to begin. Today, right now, with one word, one voice, one you. Because your voice matters. Your English matters. And your journey has already started. If this video spoke to your heart, if it made you feel seen, if it gave you even one drop of courage, then don't stop here. Backhand index pointing right like this video, so more learners like you can find it. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe to unleash your English for more real, emotional, and simple learning stories. Backhand index pointing right and comment below. What's one sentence you're proud to say today? I'd love to read it. No matter how simple, no matter how imperfect. Remember, every sentence you speak is proof that you're becoming the speaker you were always meant to be. This is your time. This is your voice. This is your fluency. Speak it into life. Speech balloon glowing star.